right, let's move over to the defensive side of the ball, and there's a lot to be excited about. First, let's talk about the guys up front along the defensive line. They did lose an important piece up front with DeBraylon Carroll going to Texas Tech. But other than that, this group mainly stays intact from a year ago. How did they look in the spring, and did anyone stand out?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a defense that returns 20 of 22 on the two deep, which is crazy. Bill Connolly does the SP Plus returning production. Rice has the most returning production of any team in the country on defense coming into the 2024 season. So that's a pretty good start. Losing to Braylon Carroll stinks. I always made the joke that if he was 2 inches taller coming out of high school, he would have been playing at Texas Tech. And if he was 3 inches taller, he would have been playing at Texas. Dude is unreal. So it's going to stink having him. Isaiah Floyd is a big guy in the middle. He's going to play a lot of snaps. He was already on the field a lot. The guy that you're actually going to see on the field more, probably taking his spot, Blake Banish, who made some starts at times. DeBraylon Carroll got hurt, missed a good chunk of 2 seasons ago. He was the guy who kind of took that next step, and he's been a monster in the middle as well. So you see a lot more of Blake Banish. And I think the interior is going to be, that's kind of, if I'm looking at question marks for this team, that's kind of what I want to see as we kind of go through, fall camp and into, next couple weeks. Cause Joseph Mutombo is a guy who, I guess, redshirt freshman, huge monster dude, was an all district guy in high school and looked really good in the spring. They like him. Michael Larby's a guy who came in from Duke, got some snaps last year. So somebody else is going to kind of have to step up. I'm not sure who that's going to be, but if you look at the top two between Banish and Isaiah Floyd, that's as stout of an interior starting tandem as you're going to get in the American.
The linebacking group looks strong going into the 2024 season as well. Highlighting this room is the return of their leading tackler from a year ago in Myron Morrison. What can we expect from this group in 2024?
It's probably the deepest group on the team, if I'm being honest. Chris Conti starting linebacker last year for half the season before he got hurt. I don't know if he's going to crack the 2 deep, which is crazy, and not for lack of talent. Like, when you can replace a starter because the rest of the guys are that good, that kind of speaks to where you are. So yeah, Myron Morrison, straw that stirs the drink. He's going to be on the field, calling the shots on defense. The guy I'd point out probably is Ty Morris, who has just become kind of a superstar, a sponge, kind of soaked up. True freshman last year. Like I mentioned, hard to get on the field as a true freshman on this team. It just doesn't happen very often. But whenever he was on the field, he made plays. And so he had a really good spring. Coaches had a lot of good things to say about him, trusted him to do more, put more responsibilities on his plate. So he's a guy, either him, DJ Arkansas, those two are kind of the guys who, when you just look at just pure athleticism and athletic ability, they don't look like linebackers, man. they play like they're so much bigger and faster. So those two guys I'm really excited about. I think you kind of see a rotation between them and Myron. And man, like Bo Barton probably had the best spring of any player on this roster. And I don't know how you get him on the field. That's probably a special teams guy. But there's just so many options in this room that, for the most part, and it's been tricky because this offense kind of deploys kind of a modified 4-2-5, ish at times. So they're only putting 2 linebackers on the field ever. So this might be the year where, say, man, can we squeeze off one of those tackles and put in an extra linebacker? I think there's a possibility that DC Brian Smith is more willing to do that this year than he has in years past, just because this room is so good.
Moving over to the defensive backfield, they did lose a key piece when Trayshawn DeVones left for Duke, but overall the room has experience coming back with guys like Play Wyatt, Gabriel Taylor, and Sean Fresh, among others. What can we expect from the defensive backs here in 2024?
I'm really interested because this is a part where they have the top line is really, really good. Like Gabe Taylor, brother Sean Taylor, has just been a superstar. He's been everything you ever thought he would be. The only reason he ends up on this roster is because he didn't decide he was going to play football until his senior year of high school. Everybody had already filled up by the time he was out there and had 7 or 8 pick sixes in his senior year, his first year playing football. He's silly. He's been that good at Rice. So he's a sure thing, lock and loaded. Sean Fresh kind of turned himself into really a lockdown corner last year. Trayshawn DeVone's, him leaving, that's the biggest hit. Max Ahoya is a guy who has taken over, and he has been the guy who, I went into the spring uncertain. I said, who's going to fill that role? And, I talked about O-line where they just kind of cycled through just a bunch of different guys. And that's not what they did at corner. They basically put Ahoya on the other side and said, hey, it's yours. And he was there. He was the starting corner all through spring. I don't think that guarantees him anything, but man, he's the front runner right now. I think the only other guy that I would put into that conversation right now is Fabian Marks. He committed after spring. He's a transfer from Utah, started some games, played a lot of snaps with the Utes over the past couple years. And so, but I think that's probably, if we're looking at position battles to watch going into fall camp, I think it's going to be Marks or Ahoya. Somebody is going to win that role. And in years past, they've really liked to not rotate those positions. They like to put their corners on islands and say, hey, you stand there unless you really need a break. So one of those two guys, I think, gets the lion's shares of the snap. So they can stay healthy. I think they're really good. The only other guy that I did wanted to make sure I hit on, because we talk about superstars in the making, I think Tyson Flowers has the potential to be the best defensive back on this team. And he is a sophomore, just kind of coming into his own, really kind of took that position by storm last year and became kind of that field general, backing up a lot of guys. So he's made some big plays. I think we got more out of him. I just like his twitch, and he just seems to find the football. Those are kind of the guys you want in the defensive backfield. So they got pieces. It's going to be all about putting those together and making it make sense.
Well, if you had to pick a defensive player to have a breakout type season in 2024, is Tyson the guy, or is there somebody else?
Again, I'll go. We haven't mentioned him yet because he's not really. He's an in between. But Josh Piercy is the guy. This is my Dean Connors pick. Okay, if you haven't been following Rice football, Josh Piercy is a guy who is going to hear his name called in the NFL draft next year. He is super talented, kind of an edge hybrid linebacker that's kind of stood up this spring and gone transition to more like that outside linebacker role. So you look at a guy who's going to be, first team all conference by the end of the year and, making some noise. The guy you see on SportsCenter, it's probably going to be Josh Piercy, but you go on a guy who's going to kind of rise through the ranks. I'll go Ty Morris, but Tyson Flowers is my number 2. Is that cheating? Can I give you 3 guys?
You can give as many as you want, buddy.
One of them's going to get mad at me when I see him next. Hey, why didn't you just say me? I'm like, I'm getting there. Damone Green, defensive end. We didn't talk about the edges. I will say Coleman Coco is a guy who transferred in and was an absolute game wrecker last year. So you want to talk about reasons I'm most excited about the defense? It's the guys who can rush the passer off the edge. That's something Rice has kind of struggled with the past couple years. But you put Coleman Coco and Josh Piercy on those edges, and that's probably what I'm most excited about this defense going into the fall.
Awesome.